Hi everyone. Today we continue investigating different approaches in teaching grammar, and our main focus will be on TTT, or Test, Teach, Test. Test, Teach, Test is a very special approach. So it is an approach when learners first complete a task or activity without any help from the teacher. Then, based on the problem seen, the teacher plans and presents the target language. And after that, the learners do another task to practice the new language. So first, we test what they know, then we give them what they need in order to improve, and finally, we practice the new material which was provided to them. So what are the advantages of TTT? Well, first, it's a very good approach for emphasizing learners' autonomy. Students first use their knowledge, they learn how to use their guesses, they learn how to activate and accumulate the knowledge they have. Then it is good because teacher bases his or her target language lesson on the results of the first test and doesn't waste time on what students know. However, it is a little bit complicated because you have to make your assumptions correctly. Sometimes using TTT is tricky because you can plan more than you actually need. For example, you suppose your students do not know anything, you plan a very long grammar explanation, then you test and you realize that they know almost everything and your explanation is simply not necessary. Sometimes it can be the opposite way around. You make an assumption that they know a lot, then you test during the first step and you understand that they do not know anything and you have to provide much more. So it's a good approach because you do not waste time, but at the same time it makes this assumption point a little bit complicated. Then, one of the main advantages of TTT is that students develop the skill to try first, learn to model, and practice next. So it's not like you explain and then I'll do. It is I'll try and then if I can't, you will explain. And this is a very good approach because I really want my students to be independent. I really want them to be autonomous. And then students become more aware of their knowledge and it makes it easier for them to learn the missing parts and practice it. They can feel easily what they know and what else they need in order to improve. And this is something that helps them to raise their awareness and makes them more mindful in their approach to learning. So what are the stages of a grammar lesson? If we use the TTT approach. I will give you an example using the same points we discussed last time. I will give you an example using the construction used to. Okay, the stages will be as follows. Normally we will have 5 stages. So we will have a kind of a lead-in when we create the context. Then we will have test 1. Then we will give the feedback to test 1 plus some grammar explanation. Then we will have test 2 and then free practice in order to emphasize the new material. And now the specific example of how it can look like with used to. So for a lead-in, we will have a group discussion on 3 things you often did when you were children, but never do now. Yeah? So we make them think about the context when we can use used to. Then we have test 1. So I divide students into pairs and normally it is advisable to pair a stronger student with a weaker one and encourage their cooperation because it's not a test to assess them, it's a test to make them more conscious of what they know. Then we provide 10 to 15 sentences with used to, past simple or present simple, and we ask students to mark the sentences as past facts, present facts, and past facts which are no longer true. And we look at the way they manage to identify the correct meaning of this or that construction. Then, during the feedback stage, A teacher can put on the board the sentences with used to, and then highlight the oral and the written form and specify the meaning and the usage. So we just give them a little bit more information about used to, making sure they really understand how to use it properly. Finally, we will have test 2. Now we put the students into new pairs, so they have new partners, and we give them some kind of a worksheet with a gap fill exercise, so they have to use this construction in the right way, and we simply monitor and help if it is necessary. And then it is time for freer practice, and here I can use something as simple as picture description. I can provide them with 2 pictures of the same city in the past and now, and I can ask students to talk about things which were very common but no longer exist. Or I can provide pictures of some devices people used a lot in the past, but they no longer use them. Or some pictures of the children playing in the street in the past and make them talk about the entertainment that people used to have in the past and they do not have now, or at least they are not so popular. So this is how a test, teach, test lesson will look like. Only 5 stages: creating context by the means of a certain lead-in, then test 1, then feedback and explanation, then test 2, and then freer practice. And as a result, you will get them discover the rule themselves, you will help them to activate their knowledge, and you will make them more aware of the language you want them to learn. Thank you very much for being with me today, and tomorrow we will talk with you about the guided discovery.